The stadium was an armpit, and it was an embarrassment to the NFL. They wanted a new stadium. Baltimore didn't want to build them a new stadium. So they started shopping the team around. And the Colts had already built their stadium. You talk about doing something on a wish and a prayer. The Colts built the Hoosier Dome before they had an NFL team. It was like Field of Dreams. It was build it and a team will come. It was the whole mentality. I remember they hosted a preseason game. I want to say Giants and someone else. And as a way to sort of showcase the new stadium, the new inflated dome. Inflated in the sense that air kept the roof up. But at any rate, the Colts were looking for a new home. The city of Indianapolis already had a brand new stadium. It was about a year old at that point. And the city didn't know whether it was going to get an expansion team. It didn't know if it even had a shot at an expansion team, because teams in Cincinnati and Chicago weren't all that excited about us having a team. But lo and behold, those negotiations started unfolding. And in the midst of that, once the city of Baltimore and the state of Maryland realized that the Colts very likely would move, and in fact move to Indianapolis, became clear through those negotiations and news reports that this was really going to happen.
That's dope. That's crazy.
The legislature
That's crazy.
of the state of Maryland,
I always heard this story, but never heard it from the horse's mouth, somebody that was actually involved in it.
To amend Maryland's eminent domain statute. That's the statute by which if the state wants to build a new highway and your farm just happens to be in the way, they can come in and condemn. They can declare through eminent domain for public use a portion of your property, and that's just a matter of how much money they owe you. Well, typically, that's only done with respect to real estate, to real property, not personal property, like a football team. It's typically only done to land. But the state of Maryland was going to meet in an emergency session to change the Maryland eminent domain statute to allow the city of Baltimore to condemn, quote unquote, the Baltimore Colts and to keep them in Maryland, to keep them in the city of Baltimore, to declare them a public asset, no longer privately owned by the Ursays. Now, there are all kinds of bells and whistles ought to be going off in your head right now, considering whether or not that'd be constitutional. A city or state just doesn't like what you're going to do with your football teams. They come in and take it away from you. How is that due process? How is that consistent with the 14th Amendment or the 5th Amendment and their protections of due process? A whole other question. But whether it's constitutional doesn't change the fact that they were going to do it. And so when you see the reports, when you see the flashback videos, you know, of the Mayflower vans pulling out of Baltimore, it's still dark and you see the flickers of snow going across the light of the camera. That always gets portrayed, whether it's on ESPN or the NFL channel or one of the other channels that cover the NFL. Whenever that gets portrayed, it gets conveyed to the listener or the viewer as if the city of Baltimore was while it was sleeping, while it was unaware, the evil Colts snuck out
dead
under
ass.
cover
It
of
does
darkness.
though. That's the story I always hear.
Because they didn't want to face their fans.
That's the story I
Because
always
they didn't
hear.
want to face the city. They'd rather be sneaky about
Here
it.
go
That's
the
how it's always
truth.
portrayed.
Here go the truth.
Left under cover of darkness. Do you know why the moving vans, the Mayflower vans, were sent in the middle of the night? And by the way, Mayflower at the time was based here in Indy, and Robert Irsay, owner of the Colts, had gotten to know the CEO of Mayflower. And the discussion was, if the legislature, the state of Maryland, is going to convene so as to change the statute in Maryland that would then allow the state of Maryland and the city of Baltimore to seize the Colts and to keep the Colts in Baltimore, the smart thing to do was to make sure there were no assets. Let's start that whole sentence again. The smart thing to do was to make sure there were no assets of the Colts left in Maryland to condemn by the time the eminent domain proceedings were allowed to proceed.
Wow, that's
so the decision
crazy.
was, what if we got everything?
That's crazy.
The actual NFL charter itself.
Yo, they took everything. Before they sit up there and made it seem like they... That's crazy.
that represents the Colts.
Damn.
There's nothing left in Maryland.
They took everything. You can't say we got to stay if we take everything. That's why they did it.
Condemn.
Damn.
Be outside the jurisdictions of
the government, something else.
Statute as amended, so as to allow the seizure of the Colts. So that's why the call went out from the owner of the Colts to the CEO of Mayflower, saying, "Get some vans in Baltimore tonight. We need to move the assets." And by the way, was there a concern that this would even be upheld? That is, the condemnation of the Colts would be upheld. Well, what had the Raiders just suffered in California within the previous couple of years? For a while.
What's going on with it, man? You guys, this is Life with, this is Polo Dollar, man. You on the Life with Polo YouTube channel, and you have just heard some crazy. This is the truth. Facts coming from the horse's mouth, but one of the guys who was basically involved. So just
that Maryland
finish
sought to obtain vis-a-vis the Colts. So, as part of all of that, there were several lawsuits filed. There was still an eminent domain proceeding filed in Maryland. But filed in state court, the Colts moved it into federal court, and it was ultimately dismissed. Why? Because there was no jurisdiction. There was nothing left in Maryland to seize. There was also a lawsuit filed in Indianapolis, and the Colts filed the lawsuit saying, hey, we have conflicting claims because the city of Baltimore says we're condemned and we have to go back to Baltimore, and the Capital Improvement Board and the city of Indianapolis have a contract with us through the lease of the Hoosier Dome that says we have to stay. We're conflicted. We don't know which is going to prevail.
They're talking about how we got the Colts.
And
the
so
football team, the Colts.
Court in Indianapolis.
I always wanted to hear the story from somebody that was directly involved.
A strategy of the Colts and the city of Indianapolis and the Capital Improvement Board.
Crazy shit, but they always made it seem like the Colts just up and left.
Political subdivision
but
owns the stadium
they was doing some sneaky shit. Baltimore, they was trying to keep the Colts there.
Whether the Colts had to go to Baltimore or not.
Like, that's crazy. So they just said fuck it and took off. But the owner, you know what I mean, went ahead and made the switch.
From Indiana, an Indiana courtroom, Indiana judge, potentially an Indiana jury, much more likely a judge,
right?
Than what treatment they would get back in Baltimore.
He's a fun guy.
Litigation called an interpleader action here in Indianapolis. Again,
no, ain't nothing wrong with that shit. I ain't bullshit. But I don't know if that was sneaky or not. According to what they saying, like they did the right thing.
And that's why the
government was being sneaky
to be a Colts fan. It's been fun to me for me to want to support the organization. That's why I again was thrilled. I was an original season ticket holder.
Walmart.
Is because I always felt like I had some fingerprint, as minor as it might have been, on the